All right. Welcome to episode 8 of Creation of Anatomy. I'm your co host, Eric Valero,
I'm Sarah Holcraft.
and we have a special guest. We have Kathleen here today with us today, and she is going to tell us about her summer right now.
My summer.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Well, I am starting July 1st. I became a first-year principal.
Woohoo.
So it's been busy, really busy. So I have forgo or sacrificed really, I think now that I am an administrator, summer is kind of in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But it is nice because I go in and it's a little more relaxed. You don't have the intensity of the kids and everything, but it's still very busy.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's a good busy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
For
it's
a good reason.
It's for a good reason. It's all for the mission.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we invited Kathleen on because we work together, and she's a little more of an expert in theology of the body.
I don't
than
know
us.
about that.
Our
I'm
first
not
expert
sure
on this
about
show.
that.
She studied it longer.
I
than
have a
us.
passion for it.
Mhm.
That's I got my master's in moral theology from Christendom.
Mhm.
So we studied a lot of John Paul II.
Mm-hmm.
But I taught theology of the body to grade school for the past 7 years. So I feel like I've gotten to know JP2, who's my all-time favorite saint. He is the saint of my generation.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to personally meet him and see him many times, and went to the first World Youth Day in Denver.
Mhm.
And so he is by far my all-time favorite saint. Like out of the
Cool to have
water,
known-
no
yeah.
one
I
even
know.
closer than he is my favorite saint. So
That's great.
yeah, Mother Teresa's not even really a close second. It's like him and then Mother Teresa.
Sorry, Mother Teresa.
So I've just had such a deep love for him for so many years. But to think to enter his mind is really complicated,
Mhm.
and but so well worth it. He's a mystic.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
He knows God.
Yeah.
So you want to tap into that spirituality. So
Mhm.
yeah.
And it's cool to be able to funnel his knowledge and what he gained from his relationship with God into your classes, into the children that you taught.
Yeah.
That's so cool. To think that you're like taking a channel right from God through JP2 and then into your children. That's
Right. Well, think about it. No one could understand him. And then you've got really brave people like Christopher West.
Mhm.
And so now we're able to, Ruah Woods,
Mhm.
Theology of the Body, is they're able to take his mind and implement it into a K-8 curriculum.
Mhm.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But we couldn't have done it without all these people who have said, I need to take on his mind and
Sure.
try to make it useful for the common person who can't understand his
Mhm.
philosophical thinking,
Mhm.
I think that's the same thing that he did with St. John of the Cross. As I think
Yes.
he was very difficult for people to understand.
That was one of our earlier episodes.
Oh.
When you try to read him directly, it's like, wow, I
Yeah.
have no clue what you're saying. And then when you hear JP2's interpretation, you go, wow, that's so much more understandable. I get what he's saying now. But you took the time to study St. John of the Cross.
Isn't that interesting?
Mm-hmm.
Like the great thinkers have to take the time to study the great thinkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that there needs to be somebody that it intercedes between those spaces so that more and more people can have access to those findings.
Yeah.
And it's almost as if like St. John of the Cross was a long time ago.
Right.
I'm not sure if there was somebody like him in between,
Mhm.
but I wonder if his message might have been lost
Mhm.
had it not been for JP2
Yeah.
really taking the time to study it and reintroduce it to the world in a more maybe like a populist type of way that they could all understand it, and
Yeah.
could it have, because to be honest, when you read him, it's not as if anyone could just read him and gain those insights that he did.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, he's a saint of your generation.
He's
so
the
he
saint of
knows your
my
generation.
generation.
He really like understands the youth in general in this world, and so I think he knows how to make it applicable and relevant, but still like it's not just like easy peasy. Because there is still depth to it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where we're on page 45.
Yep, we're only on
Going
page
slow.
45.
I commend you how brave you are that you are going to tackle this entire book. Way to go.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, thank you.
Who
Yeah.
knows
I've
where it'll
never
take
read
us.
this start to finish. I've only read it through his audiences.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. For those that are watching and are reading along with us, we are reading from page 44, and I was told to stop at page 51, I believe. 50. So 44 to page 50, and we're reading Kant's Anti-Trinitarian Personalism,
Mhm.
which, whew, that had some good thoughts in there.
It did. It's also the most confused I felt while reading.
Is it?
This. Yeah.
It was intense.
There were 2 question marks I wrote in here.
Yeah.
One was where he was being very contradictory, and I didn't know
That
what he was
was
trying to say.
when he was reading. I it was hard to read that part
Yeah.
because
Which
he was.
This was page 45 into 46.
like right when we started. Yeah. I didn't like the first part. I was having a hard time following. It wasn't until we got into like the morality, the moral law,
Yeah.
all of that. Then I
Yeah.
started really connecting.
Yeah.
Well, I think, I mean, it made me really think about just the fabric of reality itself. Is like, I'm like, he's pointing out how his idea of rationality and like theory, right, theoretical and practical,
Mhm.
can't exist in that same space, and how he had to do away with knowledge. Page 45.
Yeah.
Right.
What does
Once-
that mean?
He had to do away with knowledge to make room for faith. What does that mean? Right?
That they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Right.
But
So JP2 is saying that's not true.
well, yeah, I think he's trying to make the point that, well, I think you might even say that there's a level of absurdity of the points he's trying to make, Kant is trying to make.
Yeah. Oh.
You got it?
Yeah. No, wait, that makes sense. So I think I had to do away with knowledge to make room for faith. I think he's making a point like what we know of the world. So one of his proofs is that every composite substance in the world consists of simple substances, and no composite consists of simple substances.
Yeah, they annihilate each other.
They contradict each other.
Yep.
And I think he's trying to make a point that like our understanding of the world competes with who God is. And I think he's saying like that we can't rely on our own knowledge to have faith in God.
The sense data is what he was talking about, right?
Yes.
Empirical.
This is what I think,
Yeah.
not what I know.
Well, I was thinking when he said about the first antinomy being that the world has a beginning in time and that it has no beginning in time.
Yeah.
Is that whether if you're an atheist, if you're a theist, if you're a deist, any of those things, right? Is that there is something as opposed to nothing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you have to imagine that, I mean, it's so strange to think, like, where did it all come from, right?
Yeah.
And then if you actually think about the idea of God as a creator, is that I think the whole thing, there's this big circular argument of like, oh, there was nothing before God, and then God created, but who created God? If there had to have been something prior, right? And there's this big circular argument. But the thing is like, it's so weird that we just take for granted that we're here now, right? And that, like, it's kind of when we were at the doing the Bible study with the teens tonight, and
Mhm.
we were talking about Job,
Mhm.
right? And how we just take for granted that like we walk,
Right.
right? And it's one of those things where like we are humans. We have no clue, and
Yeah.
that was even what God was saying in Job was,
Yeah.
you weren't there when I created the heavens and the earth. You weren't there when I measured out the lands and with something that you couldn't even understand how I measured it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like we don't have the ability to come to some kind of final conclusion about the world has a beginning in time or it doesn't have a beginning in time.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my hardest classes that I ever took was God the Father.
Mm-hmm.
It was from the Summa 1 to 44.
Mm-hmm.
And I could never really grasp it. I don't think you're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But Thomas Aquinas always says the only way that we can come to know God is to know what he's not.
Hmm.
Because he is so other
Yeah.
that we can never even we can never even come close. The only way that we can ever come close to knowing who God is by picking apart what he's not.
Mm.
So he's not, and then he uses all these philosophical terms.
Yeah.
He's not potential versus, so he doesn't have parts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
God is one. God is omnipotent. God is, and all of these things, we don't even have language to be able to
Right.
describe. And I think the closest person who got to it was Thomas Aquinas.
Sure.
So I feel like JP2 is kind of a son to Thomas Aquinas in just trying to, I mean, I don't know if JP2 would call himself a Thomist. I don't know if he used that, but I think that he knows Aquinas deeply. And he's trying to get us to understand the only way that we can come to know God is by, first of all, taking time to contemplate these realities, but by understanding that we are mere humans who can never even come close to grasping
Right. Yeah.
who he is.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is kind of exciting because then we just spend our whole lives learning
Entering
more.
into the mystery.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I know. I feel like reading just what I read, because I love Aquinas, and I feel like just reading this, I got back into Thomas Aquinas just understood law, truth, virtue. Like the Summa, there's a whole section on that. So, but I think that I feel, and tell me if I'm wrong, I'm that what JP2 is trying to really portray to us is that we are made with that our freedom comes by self-mastery, and our freedom comes through like it says, the moral law demands obedience. Like understanding the human will. The human will, it's the self-caused movement that I feel that if we move into, it's not about sensuality, it's not about pleasure, it's not about emotion. It's when we can reason with faith, and faith being in harmony with reason, and we can live freely within the moral law of God, the eternal law, that's what life is all about.
Yeah.
That's what I sense that was coming from.
It's so funny you say that, because it's very touching on what the previous topic was talking about.
Oh.
Of like the idea, I'm trying to even think, I believe I wrote it down somewhere here, but the idea that of even what Saint John of the Cross was saying about like giving completely what God gave to you, right? Like, which is so confusing. Like the whole idea of like God, you have to give God to God because God gave himself to you, right? Is that it's it's the duty aspect of it
Yes.
that is the will, right? And it's so strange. It's almost, I feel like, to me, it feels like when playing a chess game, right? There's rules to the chess game, right? There's ultimate rules. And the thing is that you have almost a duty to try your best to play the game,
Mm-hmm.
but there's no physical limitation to cheating,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's no physical limitation to taking a pawn and moving it diagonally when it's not taking a piece. You know what I mean? So it almost feels as if our free will allows us to go outside of our duty,
Mm-hmm.
right? But living our duty is like playing the game the way it ought to be played, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna like end up in any kind of success in any type of way, but you ought to play the game that way because it's God's will, right? And when you listen to God's will, it's like following the rules of chess, and you are given the gift of being able to participate in God's creation,
Mm.
right? Is like you can cheat, right? You don't have to follow God's will. That's why He gave us free will, is that He allowed you to either enter into the game or bail out. And
Yeah.
you'd be better off entering into the game, right? Because God has in store for you the most adventurous and amazing life you could think of. And your rules are always going to be subpart of God's
Yeah.
rules, you know?
Yep.
That is kind of what we were talking about in Bible study today about
Yeah.
like the football analogy
Mhm.
that Jack brought up. Like why like I never doubt what my coach is telling me to do. Like I
Yeah.
just do like my coach tells me to do this, and my job as a player is just to do the play. And I don't ask like, oh, like why can't I run this way? Why can't I like hit this guy? Like no, I'm just going to do what I do because that's why like I'm there. And I think like yeah, why is it that we question God so much when like the reason that we're here is to follow him, to be obedient to him, and like ultimately that's the like you said, like we don't have a good plan for ourselves, period.
Yeah.
Like we think we do, we think it might work out, it never works out
Yeah.
because God's plan is better,
Mm-hmm.
period.
Right. And what were you making the analogy of I think he was also making the analogy of like a soldier, right?
Right, yeah.
Is that a soldier listens to the general.
Mhm.
And the thing is that like, I mean, there's drafts and some people are forced to be soldiers, but like
Mhm.
you're not better off being a soldier who doesn't listen to his general.
Right.
Right? Like you're just better off
No.
not being a soldier then.
Mhm.
If you're gonna be a soldier, you have to put your faith in something greater, right?
Mhm.
And if you're gonna be a child of God, you have to put your faith in him. It's not worth being a Christian and then doubting God. It's like that's like a soldier saying, the general says to do this. I feel as if I should do something else, and
Yeah.
throws off his entire plan because he
Yeah.
didn't listen.
Yeah.
See, and that's the thing too is, I mean, deep down, we must think we know better.
Yeah.
Because if God's the chess maker or the rule player or
Mhm.
the general or
Mhm.
the coach, then and we play the game correctly, that's going to give us that's going to bring the greatest life. We're going to be man fully alive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it's like people don't know how or what to do to tap into that freedom.
Yeah.
And I just keep thinking like Thomas Aquinas has given the world such wisdom in the sense of it's all about self-mastery. It's
Mhm.
all about temperance.
Mhm.
It's all about really understanding. I remember a couple of years ago, I taught at my old school. I had a brilliant class, like smartest class I've ever had, more than any other class I've had. So I wanted to challenge them. So I took one of my Thomas Aquinas textbooks and by this great Dominican, and I did a whole chapter with them on happiness based on Thomas Aquinas.
Mm.
And so they had to read through it and understand the difference between pleasure and duty and you know, where it comes from and going into the virtues and self-mastery and
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. And then they had to write a paper on it and then give it to the whole school. They had to read it in front of the whole school. So I was like, pressure's on, you know, I hope these kids can understand Aquinas. And it was so natural to them
Mhm.
because it's not rocket science. First of all, is where are we going to find happiness? But it was all very just instinctive.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It wasn't something that they've heard differently.
Yeah.
Now, once you can understand Thomas's, you know, language and understand, I mean, once you get through a couple words and we had to look up several things, but
Yeah.
once they got to the root of it, it was very simple.
Right. Yeah.
Just,
Like you knew it all along.
you knew it all along. It was just making it just prevalent. And
Right.
it was almost like I felt like light bulbs were going off in these 8th graders' minds of like, wait a minute,
Well, this is
Happiness-
8th graders.
happiness is very simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
And in fact, God's not asking us to try to figure out how to be happy. It's just live the Beatitudes,
Mm-hmm.
live the commandments, live the sacramental life, have moderation,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Yeah. And I mean, that's what I feel like, even just knowing Thomas, like I feel like Thomas was all over this. That's why I keep referring to Thomas
Yeah.
and not JP2.
No, but it makes sense because just like you were saying, like it is instinctive and is natural. And I think like honestly, if JP2 had never read Thomas Aquinas, he would probably
He would have
still
said
like
the same things.
exactly, because it is just like this is, and it almost sounds contradictory to say like it's so simple, but like my experience like in learning more about the Catholic faith is that it just makes sense. Like when
Mhm.
I learn it, it makes sense and I know that it's true. And it's not complicated. It brings up more questions, but it's more curiosity. It's not doubting anymore. It's just like wanting to know more about God and
Mhm.
who he is. And ultimately, like I think a big question and something, so this weekend the teens and we were at Franciscan University for a Steubenville conference, and a big question was like talking about how do we allow ourselves to be consumed by God and not consumed by the world. And I felt like that question was really like making me think about like why does God want us so bad? Like the more we're talking and the more that we're praying, I'm like, we're so messy and broken, and I don't really get why he loves us so much. And I think that theology of the body has actually helped me a lot in like understanding God's love and how like a little bit of why he loves us and how we take that love and allow it to transform us so that we can love others. Because I think if I genuinely don't know how many friends I would have if I wasn't Christian, because I don't know how to love people. It's like only because of God's love for me and me witnessing that
And cooperating.
that I feel like any even motivation to try to love people. So yeah,
That's a deep insight.
Mm.
You got that this weekend?
Oh yeah, this, you know.
The weekend
Typical
was
Steubenville.
the weekend was for you two, huh?
Oh, it always is. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, God does it. God doesn't disappoint.
You know, it's funny because just thinking about my journey and you know, I went to all the Steubenville conferences when I was at Steubenville, and I felt like my relationship with God was very emotional, and it's good. That's very good. Everyone needs that. God's in our emotions too.
Right.
But it wasn't until I learned moral theology that I realized that God is so deeply present in my reason,
Yeah.
Mm.
Which is a
and
huge
that
leap.
I can find him by thinking through things.
Yeah.
Well, that's
And
yeah.
that's a deeper foundation that
For
we
sure.
can have.
Yeah.
Well, when you
Yeah.
were saying about like self mastery, it was interesting because you said this earlier with the teens when we were in the Bible study.
Mm-hmm.
Is God is so unbelievably powerful to the point where we couldn't understand him. And I was saying about like it's kind of like an ant trying to understand us, right? But he wants us to know him.
Yeah.
And I think that like the whole idea of Jacob's ladder, where like because he is so ridiculously above us that there's all of these like steps down the ladder. And it's so interesting you're talking about self mastery, because then if you think about it, is like your understanding of yourself in the first place like starts to bring you up that ladder.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you get somebody like JP2 that can like bring somebody up from there. And you see all these people that are doing God's will, and it seems like God's will is for him to get to know his creation,
Yeah.
right? And for his creation to get to know him,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you kind of can start to see like the specifics of God, and I think like St. Thomas Aquinas has a lot of these really deep theological ideas of like what God is, and this like these kind of like vast, great like statements of like complexity. And I think one of the things that specifically Christianity and Catholicism as understanding of an ultimate being, right, is that there's a personalism to that, right? Is that there's a specific,
Mm-hmm.
right? God is a God that wants to know his creation and wants his creation to know him, right? Is that like that's so particular.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the natures, because I think if God was something beyond our reasoning, that we could never know him, and he was just this vague idea, which is I think I wanted to kind of bring up what Kant was saying about that, because I'll read it really quick. It's on page 47. Kant's unshakable faith in God can preserve its certainty without fear, because it is perfectly insulated against any assault from theoretical reason. Kant's God is a God without being, a God who is an object of human consciousness alone, and of human consciousness only in its practical form. And if you think about that, that sounds so like we were talking about, like perfect, but perfect being a blank slate.
Yeah.
As opposed to perfect being particular in the most perfect way, right? Is that like that God is a God that doesn't want to get to know you.
Yeah.
Well, it almost sounds like he has put God in his box.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Not he is not willing to enter into God's mystery.
Like an eisegesis.
Which isn't that all of us?
Yeah.
We don't want to feel out of control. We'd like for God to be within our scope of understanding of him.
Right. Like he's a part of like our creation in our mind.
Yeah. I actually have a really hard time recognizing that the way that I pray and the way that I discern and hear God is different than others. Like I have such a hard time with that because I feel like I know God, like God's voice so well, but then people will say things and I'm like, that doesn't sound like something he would say. But then I'm like, why do I think I know what God would say to them? Like he is so, like he is who he needs to be for who he's speaking. Like he knows us, and so he's going to speak to us the way that we need to be spoken to. But it's so hard for me to conceive that, like maybe the God that I know isn't exactly who God is. And what are the boxes that I'm putting him in? What do I need to...
it's funny because I it's the simplest thing, but it's the most profound thing that Mother Teresa said. And she said, God writes straight with crooked lines. And that till our dying day, we will have some type of small, large, medium distortion
Yeah.
of God.
Yeah.
Right? We'll never, God's gonna, it's not like we try to get into, we try to read the mind of God. It's like God is going to be behind us and try to straighten that distortion and move it this way. And I'm still going to work it out.
Yeah.
This master of a man, I'm going to work out all these little tiny distortions, because really when in our prayer, it's very tricky because everything comes into the picture.
Right.
Trauma, anything that we're thinking, our minds, his mind, but he will still kind of navigate through all of our, so we can't, I have had some deeply profound where I know, God, you spoke.
Yeah.
But I've also had times where I'm like, oh yeah, Lord, you spoke. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Right.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
There's
Just
almost
that
like
we're
a
speaking or we're trying.
fog
Right.
to it. Yeah.
There is a little fog to it.
Yeah.
There's always going to be this little fog.
Yeah.
Unless you're Thomas Aquinas, that at the end of his life, the end of his life, I'll never forget
Did he
this.
just throw it all out at the end? Like,
he did.
yeah.
Because he had such a profound experience of God that he said, I am done writing because language cannot match this experience.
Yep.
Language,
Yeah.
universal language, the man who was brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah.
That probably is a pure,
Yeah.
he had infusion. Do we have infusion? I would hope so.
He's higher up on those ladders, honestly, than we are.
He's higher up.
You know what's funny though, when you say that, that totally resonated with me, because I had kind of a reversion experience back towards the Catholic Church about like 5 years ago. And prior to the reversion back, I was having all of these very confusing messages from God. And it was so obvious it was God, but I couldn't decipher them. It was as if somebody was screaming to me in another language of what I needed to do, right? And it was very obvious I needed to do something. It was very obvious that somebody is telling me something, but I could not decipher it.
Everything was
It was
tangled
so
up
confusing.
within it.
I was living a very just discontinuous life. It just nothing, no goals of mine were anything that could be kind of understood as God's will, right? And I felt like I was lying to myself all the time. And I believed my own lies, right? And I think it was through the commitment to stop lying to myself and to face reality at whatever cost that might be, that I started to get a clearer idea of what God was saying.
Wow.
But even still, it's not perfectly clear.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, now you're willing to hear, but
Yeah.
still learning to hear.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's I think every time I feel as if I do something courageous towards what God's will is saying to do, is that I hear his voice clearer.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's he was like, you were in deep battle.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you were in.
Yeah.
Right? The voices were, screaming in different directions at you.
Yes.
But he won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God won.
Which is so impressive. Like I was thinking just this weekend, the theme of the weekend was consumed. And like usually God isn't so loud. Usually he doesn't scream. And there's not a lot of thunder. But he's like, often I find that he's very, very patient with people, and he tries to speak to them in like a lot of small ways, like constantly trying to speak to them, but in a lot of like quiet ways. And meanwhile, like screens and noise and like people who are misleading us and even our own like desires and our own insecurities are constantly in our heads. And the fact that God can like pierce through all of that and make himself known to people is Like, that's a miracle.
That is a miracle.
Like, I don't know. And like, to watch, I think that like the best part about working for the church and like getting to watch people grow closer to God is seeing who they were, and me in like my limited understanding and limited faith. I think like, okay, they're like pretty good where they're at, and like I'll be a friend to them, I'll be like a mentor to them, but like I don't really think they need to grow so much, or I don't even think they can grow so much. I think I limit people a lot. And to like watch people transform, to watch God transform them and like change hearts is so miraculous to me, because I really like, sometimes you see people and you're like that is who they are.
You can't believe what he did.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and then they change so
Well,
dramatically.
because you're being transformed.
That's true. It is so true.
To see them, you know, you
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to
your
see it.
eyes.
You wouldn't be able to see it if you were not in the journey too.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah.
And especially like to walk with them too. I think if I were to like see somebody and then see them like a couple years later, I probably wouldn't notice so much. But to like walk with people,
Yes,
it's very, very clear that like God did something. I couldn't have done something. No teacher, no priest, even, like it was God who did something.
awesome.
Well, I think that our job as people that teach children, right? We're, you know, like we've had more experience. I think looking at our role as taking the obstacle away from the child to see God, as opposed to telling them what to do. Like
Right.
this is what God's telling you to do. It's like, you don't know what God's
God's
telling that
saying.
child to do. You have no clue, you know? Is that your job is to take away any obstacles that they may have in front of them to seeing God.
Yeah.
And then God can speak through them. And I think that's a lot freeing on your end.
Yep.
Of
That's
like,
true.
you're not responsible
No,
for
you're
telling this
not.
kid what his will is.
Right.
That's God's job, and you don't have to worry about that.
You just got to be a steward.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's very hard not to take responsibility or put it in our own hands,
Mhm.
isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially in accompaniment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember last year there was a kid who was he was like having, I don't know, just like being bullied and things like that, and he ended up like getting in trouble for something that he did, and so I was like sitting with him, and I felt like I had a conversation with him like a couple months earlier, and I remember in that conversation I felt so overwhelmed by like all of his suffering, and the fact that I couldn't just like take
it.
his suffering was
Mhm.
like so hard for me. But in this moment, having a conversation with him, I felt like this freedom of like the suffering that he's experiencing doesn't have to be bad, and I know that God is with him in it. It's like I can sit with him and I can listen to him, and it's helpful, but it's not going to be what saves him.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know that like God is doing that part, and I just have to do like the play that he gives
Well,
me.
that's like the Joseph story. It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Is that like it was very clear he was not in known territory, right? But it kept saying, but God was with him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Throughout the entire story, it kept making the writing makes a point to keep mentioning that God was with him.
Yeah.
Is that he was on God's journey, whether in this story you can tell what part he's at right now. Right? Because he went through some hard times. He went through some alienation and was taken out of his land and was completely in an unknown territory. But God
sent to jail.
Right. God was with him the whole time. Is that you know that? Look, I think you can look at anyone's life, and this is why you really should be careful making a final judgment on somebody.
Yeah.
Of like, you could look at somebody's life and go like, why are you doing that? And you have no clue. Like, maybe God is with them.
And you can
know?
never infringe on someone's journey. It's their
Mhm.
own.
Yeah.
And
Their
they're
journey.
the only ones that can walk it.
Mhm.
And it's for their sanctification.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for their holiness. And it's for their ticket to heaven.
Right. Yeah.
And so we can't get in the middle of it.
Mm-mm.
Mhm.
Accompaniment is probably one of the trickiest, complicated things to do with the human soul, because it's their journey
Yeah.
and they got to walk it.
Yeah.
They're not going to see God with you at their side. They're going to see God alone,
Yes.
face
Mm.
to face,
Yes.
not with you.
Yeah.
I always think about that because I want to make everyone better and save everybody, and I'm like, they got to walk that journey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's beautiful. I had a father come in the other day, and they're new to the school. 2 cute little boys, wonderful family. And the 5th grader, I had to interview him, and he couldn't get. He was so sad because he did not want to leave his old school. And they had to leave because they moved and all this kind of stuff. And he just kept trying the whole time. I just was looking at him, and he was holding back tears. And he left with his brother. He left, and I just talked to the parents. And I said, "Is he going to be okay?" And Dad just looked at me and he said, "He's got to go through this. Like we got to let him go through it." I thought, that is a good dad.
Yeah, that's a good dad.
He's not going to save it. He's not going to try to deny it or he's just, I'll be there with him, but he's got to go through it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I thought that's what God is like with us, you
Mhm.
know? And that's what a good accompaniment person does.
Yeah.
They just say, I'll be with you in it, but you got to go through it,
Yeah.
you know?
That's a very difficult transition for parents to go through, especially being an adult and having parents who are parents of adults.
Right.
Is that like, my mom has a difficult time
Mhm.
with accompaniment with that. Is that we were talking about advice before, right?
Yeah.
And my mom's an advice machine.
Yeah.
Right? I will tell her something that is like about my job, and she'll be the expert on it.
I know, and want
and
to give
she'll
you
have
the
the
advice on
solution.
everything. Yep.
And she's gotten so much better with that. And I think she's really grown into her role, finally, as a parent of an adult. But
You got to go through it yourself.
yeah, it's
Otherwise, how are we going to mature?
mhm.
Right.
Experiences mature us,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna butcher this, but there's this really interesting parable about a diamond maker, about people that are making their diamonds, and as they go through their life. I'm butchering this completely, but it's really interesting.
I think I've heard, I don't know, I can't remember it, but I think I've heard it.
You've heard this?
Yep.
Of as you are going through pressure, right? Like, you start to make your diamond, right? And if somebody does it for you, they take credit for part of your diamond, right? And now all of a sudden, like, what could have been something that you created and you made into yourself now has they almost took property of it,
Yeah.
right? And they stole a piece of your diamond, right? When that pressure needed to be put on you so that you created your own diamond. I'm probably not doing the parable justice.
Yeah, no,
but,
that's, yeah, right.
But, you know, like, that's kind of that idea of, like, don't steal this from this person.
Yeah.
You know, like, let them figure it out. Let them go through this and be there with them, encouraging them the whole time. But don't do it for them. Don't take the credit for, oh, I got this person through it. It's like, no,
Right.
you have no clue if you got them through it.
Right, you don't.
God probably
And you're
got
not
them
gonna,
through.
you shouldn't know.
Yeah.
It keeps you humble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever read the book? It's an oldie but goldie. My favorite book I've ever read in all times. It's called Hind's Feet on High Places.
Yes.
Do you love that book?
I love it.
It's my favorite.
It was so surprisingly transformative.
It's transformed me too.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned it to you. It's kind of simple.
It's an allegorical book.
It is. It's just about the story of a girl much afraid,
Mm-hmm.
and she has a limp, and it's just her journey what is he called? The shepherd, or
He's the shepherd.
yeah. So the shepherd wants to bring her like to high places, and she's just very scared.
Mm-hmm.
And her family, her like cousins, bitterness and
Pride.
yeah, like they come in and they speak lies to her and they try to convince her to come back home. And she has two companions. One is
Oh my gosh, I can't believe I can't. Bitterness? Suffering.
Suffering.
And sorrowful and suffering.
I think sorrow and suffering.
Suffering.
Yeah. So they like help
and they're her
carry
companions.
Mm.
Yeah. But
But
so...
she can't do it on her own. So she has to
Right.
call on them.
Yeah.
But do you remember there's a part when she goes down to this refinery
Oh yeah.
and she's like, she's refined. They talk about refining into dust. And, and for some reason that just struck me of that's what's happening to our soul when we are trying to get to the high places and we've got suffering. What it does is just refines us. It takes us and it just brings us, because it has to be molded into something.
Mm.
And she was brought to a place of she was brought to really nothing so that she could then go to the high places.
Yeah.
It's like her rock bottom.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I read this book during a time in my life where I felt I had hit rock bottom. And it was like that chapter I read when it was like one of my worst days of my life.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then but we have to be refined into gold. We have to, before we can actually be molded into the person God wants us to be.
Mm.
Everything has to be stripped away
Yeah.
from us to be saints.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. Yeah.
That's interesting because when I have a vivid memory of when I was in 3rd grade. There was a priest that was at St. John the Apostle, Father Joseph.
Yeah.
And he used the same analogy about purgatory of like
Yes.
taking a raw ore
Yeah.
and refining it, and that you don't want to have there's all of this black soot and stuff that you don't want to take into someplace that's sacred,
Right.
and you want to get that all off of you, because I mean there's not really, you might even say that's your objective, right? Is that like you don't want to have all of that, like the wheat from the chaff.
No.
You don't want
No,
all that
you
chaff.
don't want it. I don't want to see God that way.
Yeah, right. And I don't think you would feel right about seeing God with that. You would look at yourself and go, what am
It's His
what
mercy.
am I showing you right now?
Mhm.
And then
Let's do it on earth, though.
on earth, yeah.
We can do it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We can do it. Let's just ask for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to take on our suffering. Take on
I'm
our
like,
cross.
Lord, I want a straight shot. I say yes.
Not settling for purgatory. Okay.
Did you guys have any other thoughts about the other pages there?
I think that's a good place to stop.
That's a good place to stop. All
Mhm.
right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Kathleen, for joining
This
us.
was wonderful.
Isn't it fun?
I like any reason to talk about God in the spiritual life. I was not expecting this, though. I thought we'd be like entering into the Garden of Eden and the 3
Nope.
originals, and we
Nope,
talked
page
about
45.
books.
Yep.
But you know what? The moral life, because I'm trying to connect. Why in the world would we have talked about this as an introduction into theology of the body?
Yeah.
But he's open. Well, here's the human person.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
he's developing
Mm.
humanity.
And you know
The
what's so
human
funny
soul.
is that I'm sure, I mean, it's obvious. He didn't know what he was going to write this book, or that this book was going to be written when he was studying Kant. You know,
Right,
you
yeah.
got
Yeah.
to think is he probably didn't know why he was studying Kant. The Holy Spirit was just pointing him in that direction. This is going to be useful one day.
Right.
You know, and then it became pivotal in him writing
Mm-hmm.
this and coming up with all of these ideas. And it's so interesting that he had faith in God when he was studying Kant and Bacon and Descartes,
Yeah.
and that it's so interesting to see his journey. And then I think you see the inception of his faith in God
Mhm.
play out in him talking about faith in God, which
Yeah.
is so so
Yeah.
interesting, you know?
Yes. Yes. No, it's good.
Don't skip the introduction.
Good luck,
Yup.
guys. Good luck
Thank
with
you,
this. I'm
thank
really
you.
proud of
Thank
you.
you.
This is you guys are going to be an amazing married couple
Oh.
Thank you.
together, right? God's using both of you for his glory together. It's just beautiful. I see it. I see you guys growing and giving
Yeah.
your lives for the mission of the church, and keep it up.
Oh, we will.
We will.
I'm so privileged to know you two.
Oh.
And we're privileged to know you too.
Oh, well, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. I am her boss. So, yes.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Mhm.
Thank you guys for reading pages 45 through 50 with us. And we will see you next time on the Creation of Anatomy podcast.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.